Hey guys, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to go ahead and multiply monomials. Now, we're going to go ahead and multiply the monomials, and we're going to have to use the product rule. Now, I know all of this sounds like gibberish, but right now when I go ahead and explain, and you guys are going to see that multiplying monomials is going to be pretty easy, even using the product rule. So before we get started, let's go ahead and talk about what monomials are. Actually, we'll start with polynomials. If you take a look at your screen, a polynomial, and we've seen these before, right? Expressions, we call them expressions. Now, if you take a look at this one, the polynomial, right, is just an expression with more than one term. It has several terms to it. So if you take a look at term, is anything that's separated by a plus or a minus. We have the 4xyz. We also have the 3x, we have the 12y, we have the z, and we have the 15. Now, if I count them, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. So this, we call it, when we put everything together, we call it a polynomial. Now, we can break down the polynomial into 3 different ones, or actually, different ones, but we're going to go ahead and talk about the monomial. Now, a monomial is just polynomial, right? It's a polynomial with only one term. As you can see, we don't have anything attached to it in the front or in the back. It's only one term. Now, a binomial, right? A binomial, it means two, right? So we have two terms. We have this one, the 8z, and we have the 3. So we have two terms. And a trinomial, we have 3 terms. So as you can see, this is just something that, just a little review. And of course, the good thing about this is that we're only going to be working with monomials today. So we're going to be multiplying 2 monomials. So in order for us to use this, or to be able to multiply 2 monomials, something that looks like this, we're going to have to use the product rule. So before we get started, let's just go ahead and talk about the rule of exponents. And what does product mean? Product means whenever you multiply 2 things, the answer that comes out. So product just means the answer when you multiply. Okay, so the only thing we're going to be doing today is we're going to be multiplying, right? And we're going to be adding or subtracting, right? So that's basically all we're going to do today is we're going to be multiplying, we're going to be adding and subtracting. So it's not something, a new operation that you guys are learning. What you guys are learning today is how to use, right, the rules of exponents. In particular, we're going to be using today the product rule, right? So before we get started, let me just talk a little bit about multiplication. And we've been multiplying ever since we can remember, right? Let me just do some examples right here. If they give you 2 numbers, for example, 2 times 3, right? We've been multiplying numbers ever since we were little, so nothing new. 2 times 3 would be 6. Nothing changes here, right? Let's, for example, let's say we have -4 times 3. Okay, now we have negatives times positives. We treat them the same way. We've been multiplying these numbers for a while now, integers. So -4 times 3, 4 times 3 would be 12. And then negative times a positive is a negative. So when we multiply the constants, the big numbers, we're just going to go ahead and multiply like we've been multiplying ever since we can remember. Okay, what's going to be different today is that when we multiply letters, for example, let's say we have x times x. Our answer for this would be, our product would be x squared. Now, why is that? This is what we're going to cover today. When we multiply numbers, we multiply them like always. When we multiply letters, we have to use the product rule. So that's what we're going to go ahead and talk about today. So the product rule says, when you multiply, right, 2 letters, or it could even be numbers, they have to be the same base. When you multiply something with the same base, and when I say base, I'm talking about this one right here, the x and the x. All we have to do, right, to the exponents, right, the little numbers that are on top, all we're going to do is we're going to add them. So we're going to keep the base, we keep this number, right, We just write it once, and we add the exponents. So let me go ahead and start with the example so you guys can see what we're talking about. And if you take a look at number one here, number one, now be very careful because I said numbers, the regular numbers, the constants, you multiply them like always. Of course, if you take a look at this one is a 4 and this one is a 4, and both of them have exponents. Since it's the same number, right, I'm going to use the product rule. You keep the base, you're going to keep the 4, and you're going to add the exponents, right? So if I write it out, it's going to look like this, 2 plus 2. Of course, I can simplify this to 2 plus 2 is 4. So when I multiply 4 squared times 4 squared, my answer is going to be 4 raised to the 4th power. Now let's go ahead and work out another example. Let's work out number 2 over here on this side. We have 4 times 4 squared. Now be very careful because even though we don't see it, you're supposed to understand that we do have an exponent here, and it's a 1, right? So we have 4 raised to the 1 power times 4 squared, right? I'm going to multiply these two. Right? You keep the base, and then you add the exponents. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Now in a little while, I'm going to stop writing the exponents out. I'm going to stop writing it. I'm just going to add it in my head. So for this one, we have 4 raised to the 3rd power. So one of the things, guys, before we go any further, one of the things that I like to do is, so I can remember this rule, is whenever we multiply, and I usually say letters, right? Whenever we multiply letters, right, what do we do with the exponents, with the numbers on top, the small ones? We add them. So whenever you multiply exponents, what do we do with the letters on top, with the numbers on top? We add them. Again, whenever we multiply letters, right, what do we do with the numbers on top? We add them, right? So that's a little something that I like to use so I can remember the product rule. So we have the next example is 3, right? Squared times 3 squared. We're going to keep the base, and we're going to add the exponents. So this one would be 2 plus 2 would be 4. So my answer would be 3 raised to the 4th power. Let's try one more example where the bases are numbers. As you can see, we have 2 times 2 squared times 2 squared. Now, as long as we have the same number, the same base, right? In this case, we have a 2. We can use the product rule. We have 2, 2, 2. We keep the base. Right? We're going to keep the 2, and then we're just going to add the exponents. We have 1 plus 2 plus 2. That would give us 2 plus 2 is 4, plus another one is 5. So 2 raised to the 5th power. That would be our answer right there. So let's go ahead and start working with the letters, the variables. If you take a look at number 5, we have another example here. Now remember, when we multiply, since these two numbers are not the same base, we cannot use the product rule. So I'm just going to multiply them like I've been multiplying them since I can remember. We're going to do 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Right? Now we take a look at the ends. Remember that we have to multiply, they have the same base, both of them have n, so I can multiply those two together. I can multiply this one with this one. And when you multiply, remember, when we multiply letters, what do we do with the exponents? We add them. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to multiply n to the 4 times n to the 4. Of course, 4 plus 4 is 8. So that would be our simplified expression. Okay, let's go ahead and work out another example, number 6. Okay, we have 6 times 5. We're going to multiply like always. 6 times 5 is 30. And then we're going to go ahead and multiply the r's, right? We're going to go ahead and multiply those two right there. Now remember that this r right here, even though we don't see it, there's a 1 right there. So multiply the letters, keep the base, and add the exponents. 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, this would be our simplified expression right there. Let's go ahead and work out number 7. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. We have 2 times 6, right, which is 12. I'm just going to multiply like always. And then I'm going to multiply the ends. I can multiply that in with that end right there. Keep the base. 4 plus 4 is 8. That would be our simplified expression, right? We're left with a monomial right here. We multiply one monomial times another monomial, and we're left with that single monomial right there. If you take a look at number 8, right, we're going to go ahead and multiply these two. Now remember, some of you might be thinking, we have a 6, but what about the k? Do we have a number? Can we multiply? Remember that even though we don't see it, there is a 1 right there, and the exponent is also a 1. So I'm going to go ahead and put them so we can see them. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply the 6 times the 1. 6 times 1 is 6. And then k, right, I can multiply the two k's, keep the base, which is k, and then add the exponents. 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, so we did that. We have 4 more examples, and they're going to get a little bit more complicated, but nothing we can't handle. So let's go ahead and multiply this one. Remember, when we multiply, it doesn't matter how many monomials they want you to multiply, right? We multiply, right, the numbers with the numbers. We're going to multiply them like always. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and multiply the v's with the v's. Right? We have those 3 v's right there. And then we also have u's. So I'm going to, let me go ahead and use another color. Let me erase that one right there. I'm going to go ahead and multiply the u's with the u's. So let's go ahead and work this one out. We have 7 times 10, right? I'm first multiplying 7 times 10. So 7, right, times 10. That's going to be 70. And then I still have to multiply the 8's. So 7 times 8, that's 56. Bring down the 0. So when I multiply the 3 numbers, my answer should be 560. And remember, you could always use a calculator for this step. If you're not sure, you could always use a regular calculator, and what you could do is just multiply the 3 numbers, 7 times 10 times 8, and it's 560. So you could always use a calculator just to make sure. Of course, whenever we work out the letters, I need to multiply the v's with the v's and the u's with the u's. Now, which one comes first? Remember, in math, we always try to follow alphabetical order. So in this case, the u comes first. So let me go ahead and work with the u's first. We have u to the 3rd power times u to the 1 power. I'm going to go ahead and multiply the u's. 3 plus 1 is 4, so I add the exponents. And then I go ahead and work with the v's. We have v to the 3rd power times v raised to the 5th power times v raised to the 3rd power. So you keep the v, and all you do is add the exponents. 3 plus 5, that's 8, plus another 3, that's 11. So that would be my simplified expression. Let's go ahead and work out 3 more examples. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. We have several exponents here that we can work with, several letters. We have the 2 numbers that we can multiply together. And then we have the x's that we can multiply together. And then we have the y's that we can multiply together. So let's take it step by step. 9 times 9, right? 9 times 9, that's 81. And then we multiply the x's. Remember, there's a 1 right there. X to the x times x raised to the 5th power. That's 1 plus 5 is 6. And then we multiply the y's. Y squared times y squared, 2 plus 2 is 4. So that would be our simplified expression for that example. We have 2 more examples, and we should be done. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one. Let me see what I can multiply. Remember that you multiply the numbers with the numbers and the letters with the letters. I'm going to go ahead and multiply the m with the m, and I'm going to multiply the n with the n. Let's go ahead and multiply all of this. 6 times 8, that's going to be 48. Right? 6 times 8, that's 48. And then we multiply the m's. N times m raised to the 3rd power times m squared is going to be m. You multiply letters, you add the exponents, that's 5. And then n, you multiply the letters, you add the exponents. 3 plus 3, that's 6. So that would be us multiplying the expressions. One more example. If you take a look at the last example, right, we have x squared times x, 6x raised to the 3rd power times 4 raised to the 4th power. So let me go ahead and multiply the number with the number. I'm going to multiply the x's with the x's, and I'm going to multiply the y. Of course, we can't multiply with anything else, so it's going to be the y by itself. Okay, so the last example would be 6 times 6, that's 36. X squared times x to the third power. We add the exponents, that's x to the fifth power. And then, of course, the y is by itself. We can't multiply with anything else, so all we have to do is just bring it down. Of course, we're not going to leave it up there. So that would be my answer for this, the expressions, simplified version of this expression right here. So as you can see it, guys, it's not hard to multiply letters. All we have to do is use the product rule. And the way we remember the product rule is like this. We multiply the numbers with the numbers like always. But when we multiply the letters, what do we do with the exponents on top? Boom, you add them. So that's a little something you can do to remember the product rule. Hope you guys like this video. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and message me through Google Classroom, and see you guys next time.